Welcome to the revolution in the airwaves. It's The Cure with Scotty and Sully, where we don't just talk about the medical industry, we transform it. This is The Cure with Scotty and Sully, where we don't just cover excellence, we create it.
Right? Hey, welcome to The Cure with Scotty and Sully. Here we are, another Friday morning with my bestie. And anytime I can get, start a weekend with my bestie, Scotty, it's a good deal for me. So, Scotty, we're fairly fresh off the PGA Championship, and maybe before we get into business, give me your take on the outcome. Xander Schauffele performing.
I thought he performed absolutely excellent. The bigger story of the weekend is obviously Scotty Scheffler behind bars.
Oh, unbelievable. What's your take on that?
I don't think he did anything wrong. I think it was 5 o'clock in the morning and the cop didn't know who he was. And according to him, the story is he was waived forward because of his credentials. And he was doing what he thought he was supposed to be doing. But
yeah, hopefully
he gets a nice judge because he could be sitting in jail for 30 days. It's actually a felony to do what he did, which was total accident. Hopefully get somebody nice. But I thought best finish on tour this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And DeChambeau kind of shined up a little bit. I kind of like that. But enough of that. Listen, I know you and I like golf, but today we're here to talk about business. We are lucky because we have Dr. Rick Goodman. Rick is one of those CSP, Certified Speaking Professional. I've got those 3 letters at the end, but Rick's been doing it. And this isn't a slam on your age, Rick, but you've been doing it longer than me, which means you're better than me. You're a keynote speaker, author, leadership expert. And listen, even before we went on the air, you're telling us about your world tours to the likes of Thailand and Cambodia, which is, by the way, that's probably why you're so thin right now. You've been speaking in Cambodia. You're best known for producing 2 great University of Missouri Tigers who are involved in the entertainment and comedy industry. So I think mostly I want you to teach me how to create young studs and folks who change the planet. But you work with a lot of medical companies. So a lot of our audiences are in healthcare, and they all exist to help healthcare systems. And what really made me want to reach out to you is you work with our customers a lot, right? And you work on communication strategies. And so I think it's helpful for us to always know what are they trying to become great at? Because when we come in or our clients come in and try to sell products, we want to be more than just product pushers, right? So try to get inside your brain. What's up with these healthcare systems and what do you do to make them better? So maybe a little background on that.
Well, first, just to answer the question on Scheffler, I think they're dropping charges on Tuesday, and the crime was written up because the police officer's pants were torn irreparably and they could not be repaired, and that was the complaint in the documents. But even better, for some reason, that the officer's body cam was never turned on.
That came out today. Yeah,
figure that out. I think it could be the last PGA Tour event in Louisville for a long time.
That's true.
Getting back to that, my background is I'm chiropractor, sports medicine. I was one of the team physicians for the St. Louis Rams when they went from worst to first. The St. Louis Ambush, also with the Miami Heat. Built the largest practice in St. Louis, Missouri at the age of 27. And then doctors from around the country said, how'd you build this big practice? So I went into consulting and started teaching doctors on how to build their practices, how to hire people, how to retain people, how to market, because I just had a marketing brain from that. And then I said, I'm going to travel around the world and speak. And my ex-wife said, who's going to hire you? Well, 2,000 programs in 32 countries and all 50 states later, she knows who's going to hire me, which is kind of the good news. So you don't want to kind of destroy your dreams. But I went back into practice again and built 13 clinics, neurology clinics down in Fort Lauderdale and all throughout South Florida. And then kind of got bored of that and building teams and went back into the speaking, working with hospital systems, because I always felt that I could only affect so many people in my 18 to 2,500 square foot office. But getting on stage or doing podcasts or writing, just like you guys are doing, you get to affect and help so many other people. And the real big picture is, for the people that are watching, people in healthcare are the most important people in the world, other than teachers. I always believe, where we make the difference, we help people, and we give people quality of life, and certainly in a lot of essence, quality of movement, so, that's really the important thing. One of the charities that I'm an executive coach for is called Purple Heart Homes. And they're like Habitat for Humanity for veterans by veterans. And their whole mission is to give freedom of choice and freedom of movement for disabled veterans who fought for the country. So anybody who's in that healthcare realm, especially where they're helping others, there's no higher calling than that.
Yeah. Well, I know you do a lot on leadership. Right. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can help people just based on your experience setting up a bunch of clinics at the age of 27. So you're an entrepreneur, no doubt. The neurology clinics, big deal. But you seem to have gravitated, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to leadership. Would you say that's your main focus? Because you wrote solutions-oriented leader. But of all these topics you can talk about, is that your go-to, or am I wrong?
Leadership has always been my go-to because leadership follows throughout everything. And leaders are not born. Leaders are developed. So you can learn to be a leader. And people think, well, that person's just a born leader. No, absolutely not. And, as we get more gray hairs or what wisdom is, we truly understand the lessons. And it's not by getting it right the first time. It's usually by failing. So, we like to fail fast. And if it's going to be a big fail, let's make it a big one so we learn a big lesson. But even looking back in retrospect, everything I've ever done brought me to that point where I can walk into a major hospital system in the U.S., like the Nova healthcare system in Virginia, and, communicate to their whole staff and understand what some of their challenges are. And understand why, what the number one breakdown is in most of these, systems is communication. Lack of communication and lack of, the listening skills for it. And the big thing is leaders do not have to be physically there, but they have to be available and visible, not necessarily present. So, the whole team knows that they're there because teams go where you go. So it really comes down to that leadership. And I think that's why Inova put together a leadership institute years ago for all their hospital systems. And we're running people through the ILI, the Inova Leadership Institute.
Talk about the book a little bit. What got you to write the book? And
well, the book originally was my first, like I said, you learn by failing. My first 2 years in practice, I went through 200 front desk people. And people used to say, front desk flavor of the month, you must be very tough to work for. And one day a woman came into my office and slammed the door and said, if you ever speak to me like that again, I'm out of here. Well, I swear on my children's life today, I don't know what the heck she was talking about, but I'm sure she was right. You don't go through 200 people in your first 2 years. What I realized is that there's something called MFTP, mother, father, teacher, preacher. Those are people who said children should be seen, not heard, don't speak until spoken to, rich people, thieves, all the stuff you heard that's not true. Well, have you ever felt like you turned into your parents and you hear yourself saying something? Well, my dad's nickname, way before Norman Schwarzkopf was on the planet, was Stormin' Norman. And he had that personality. So you never knew what was going to happen in that house. Well, you become what you see. And my communication style, obviously, was not very successful. So what I did was I went and spoke to about 45 to 50 doctors at the time who kept their staffs for years and years. And then their staff would will their children to, work for them afterwards. And when I got all those lessons, I wrote this book called My Team Sucked, 10 Rules to Turn Them into Rock Stars. See, but the reality was it wasn't my team that sucked. It was me. So it was the lessons that I had learned over a period of time. And I sent this book to a couple of people, and this one New York Times bestselling author looked at it and called me up and he said, I thought this was a throwaway book, but this book is like everything you want to know about sex, but was afraid to ask for leadership and management. And then I spoke to another speaker and she said, who is going to take a book to the office that says my team sucked? They're going to have to keep that at home. So I said, well, it can't be that. And publishers kept calling me and they wanted the book. And a publisher that I knew well, who sold his company, said, there's a woman out in Santa Monica, and my son had lived out there, and she's did a book with me on children and finance. Go talk to her. So I gave her the book, and a few days before I went out there, I put this article that I wrote called 5 Traits of a Solutions-Oriented Leader. And I decided there's something wrong with my website. I'm not that technical. And I'm looking at it, but it's getting hits. And this article's gotten hits for years, but I don't understand. I think maybe there's something broken. So I decided to put it on Reddit, and it completely blows my website out. So now in Santa Monica, I meet with this woman, and she says, this is a great book, but you got to change some things. I said, well, it can't be my team sucked. And I just start talking about this solutions-oriented leader, and it just hits me on the corner out in front of this coffee shop. I'm going to go on GoDaddy. Because whenever you get an idea, you go on GoDaddy and you lock that idea down if you can buy the. So I go on there, solutions-oriented leaders available, and the solutions-oriented leader. I thought, no way. So I buy them right there on the corner. Then I go on Amazon. I can't be that smart. Someone must have done this. I look on Amazon, nothing. Then I put it into Google. I come up number 1, and I wrote the article in 2015. And that's how the book became the solutions-oriented leader, but it became the comprehensive guide because if, we put something out there as how do I motivate my team, or if I'm an introverted leader, how do I handle things? And I give you 5 ways to do it. So it's a real how-to type of book.
You also talk about in the book, high performing, solution-oriented teams. What are some of the things the healthcare leaders today, when we first started out, before we got on this, I told you my main audience is the distribution sales rep, but I have another publication, and the target audience for that are supply chain executives at the health systems across the United States. So what are some of the things you're seeing the healthcare leaders just kind of face today based off of building teams?
Outcomes, patient outcomes, patient satisfaction, et cetera. And that comes from everywhere, not just with salespeople, but it comes with the leadership in the hospital systems. When we talk about the salespeople, really, I don't believe in customers. So many people use the word customer, and customer is a financial transaction. I give you money, you give me a widget, whatever it is that you're selling. So I believe that we all need to have clients, and client stands for care, protection, and guidance. You're there to care for them, protect them, and guide them to the best solution. Now, you tell me somebody at a McKesson or somebody at any big sales orthopedic chain or any kind of pharmaceutical chain that isn't going to focus on care, protecting, and guiding that person towards the best solutions. And that's really what we do. And if we look at it just as a transaction, it's not going to be effective. I used to work in my father's pharmacies, all the pharmacies and the medical centers in New York. And I would go in there and work for them. And back then, when I was doing slave labor at 12 years old, he was not just somebody who was handing over pills. Back then, the pharmacists were actually giving advice to the people. They would call them doc and stuff like that. So really, as leaders or as salespeople, our job is to guide the people that we're working with, guiding the surgeons to what are the best tools for them to utilize. I mean, and Lord knows I've had more orthopedic surgeries than one person for playing hockey in college and playing Olympic hockey. So 4 shoulders, reconstruct the wrists, that stuff. They're like my best friends, But again, what are we supposed to do? As leaders, we're supposed to guide our team to the best solutions because our kids could pick out the problems. Anybody could pick out a problem. People love to do that, but we don't get paid for that. We get paid for the solutions. So, it really gets people turned around. And if you think about it, we saw the Preakness this weekend. So, as being a sports fan, you might have watched the Preakness, right? And you see the horses. And what do the horses always have on them? They have blinders on them. And there's a reason why horses have blinders. And that's so they stay focused in front of them on the finish line. With the goal of any leader and the goal of any good sales supervisor or anybody out there is to put your children, to put the blinders on them as a leader and keep them focused on the goals, because it's so easy to get caught up and chase the next shiny, object or, the new thing out there and stuff like that. When really what it comes down to is people and relationships. People do business with people 100%. Who they like or like them. You'll buy a product from a friend of yours versus going to a local discount place. Mm-hmm. And that's just the way it is. You think about your friends, they're just like you. You don't hang around people opposite you. And that's the reality. So what do? Whether we're in sales or whether we're in a leadership position, we want to make all those people our friends. Okay. And that's one of the key things I do, because who's the most important person, anybody in the world, is themselves. Mm-hmm. First thing, they came out as 2 great kids at Mizzou. Okay. So talking about my favorite people, I immediately like it, right? It's as simple as that. So, that's why it's so important. A friend of mine, Sam Richter, has a great line, and I use it all the time. And he says, I was just doing my homework. Now, this is great for salespeople and leaders alike, because how many times do we get, a message from somebody on a LinkedIn or whatever, and they connect with us, and the next thing is they're selling us something right away.
Ugh, drives me absolutely nuts.
It's like saying, hi, I want to have sex with you. Okay. Don't you want to
that doesn't work?
Roses, some flowers. That's what it's really like. Or they'll still contact me and say, you should write a book. I got 3. If you just did a little homework, it makes all the difference in the world. I did a job for a major hospital manufacturer of software. And actually they're in Georgia. And I noticed that this guy who I was going to vice president of the company was in the EBIX Healthcare. He was in the Georgia Baseball Hall of Fame. Now, I never knew there was a Georgia Baseball Hall of Fame, but, if we want to have better relations, don't we need to find out about the people that we're doing business with, the people that we want to have a business relationship with? So I went on there and I looked and I was like, wow, check this out. And when I called him up, I said, Rick, I was just doing my homework. Now, I didn't say I was stalking you on the internet, Want
to have sex?
My homework. And I noticed you were in the Georgia Hall of Fame. I could feel the smile come across his face. Yeah. And immediately we were in rapport. And it makes it a lot easier when you're in rapport with people, because again, it goes back to people do business with people who they like or like them. So do some research, find out the names of, the people that you work with, their children's names, what they do. There's a company called Neutrona Networks International. They own all the underground cable that brings the internet to Latin America. And I was their executive coach for 3.5 years down in Buenos Aires and up here in Miami. And they would sell the connectivity at AT&T and Tata and Digicel and all these different companies. Well, every time I went down to Argentina, the first thing I would do in the morning was do what I called the walkabout. And I would just walk in and talk to every single person in that company and ask them, hey, how you doing? And I would always go into the NOC, which was the network operating center. There was always a red light over Brazil. So I'd always go in there and make fun of them because of that. But they built this relationship where people then would come to me if there was a problem, especially with the CEO and the CFO. If they were arguing, it was like mom and dad arguing, they come to Dr. Rick and they'd be open and I could fix things behind the scene. And that's that trust then. And that all starts with building the relationship. No. Being transparent, have all your warts out there, because then people know that you're real. And to me, the biggest compliment any salesperson or any leader can get is they're real. When someone says, I want to know who the guy is on YouTube, not the guy who's on YouTube, same guy, no different. Very consistent in that, no different. Ask my kids.
Hey, Rick, you'd mentioned you do these seminars and coaching. Let's focus on, let's say, high-level decision makers in many of these hospital systems who you work with. So you've seen ones that work really well. It's probably because the leaders do the things that you had mentioned. They're good listeners. They care. They're present. But what recommendation would you give to salespeople and how to communicate with these type of decision makers, right? So you're living with them, you see them. How should they act? What should they sound like? What should the messaging be? Any tips, sort of inside scoop? This is what these folks need to know when serving the bigwigs.
Absolutely. First thing they need to know is their personality style and how they absorb information. And this is critical. Some people are visual, some people are auditory, some people are kinesthetic. And depending if I always say, I could be speaking to you in English and you're hearing it in Spanish because we're not speaking the same personality style or the same way people process information. So let me give you a for instance, we have a CEO. His name is Luciano, and Luciano, you could say something to him, and a day later he was swear to you on a stack of Bibles you never sent to him. And as I was seeing, the one thing they wanted me to do is make their meetings more efficient because their meetings were drone on for hours. So I developed a situation where every department could give their report in 5 minutes or less. So that kind of really sped up the meeting. But I had to see how it was going to be processed. Well, if I would say something to Luciano, in and out, one ear out the other. But every time I go in and he wanted to show me something, he'd go right to the whiteboard and he'd start drawing a picture. And I recognize this guy is a visual guy. If you say something, his brain is going 7 billion miles an hour and he's going to swear to you that you never said it. But if he sees it, he gets the aha. So we created 2 PowerPoint slides with 4 panel charts, just a SWOT exercise right there on what's present and what's in the future pipeline. And it came up to me that our head of HR wanted to hire somebody, and there were 2 different candidates, and the whole management team wanted one candidate. She was the younger and better looking one. But when I just looked at the resume, I saw the other one was so diversified and had so much better, talent and better background than the other one. So I said, here's what I want you to do. Create this 2 slides, 4 panel chart, and give the presentation. And when she gave that presentation, they hired Tammy, who is now the best employee at that company. But he had to give it to them in a visual way because otherwise he wouldn't have done it. So one of the things that I need to find out when I go speak to someone is how do they think it? And that's why I love Zoom, because if I could do a Zoom call, I know right away. So there's a company I just signed a deal with called HID Global, and they're all attorneys. So, going to be an interesting crew, and I'm very familiar with attorneys because we service them with our continuing ed companies. But when I had the meeting with the head, the chief legal person there, I could tell right away, super analytical, super detailed, within seconds. So I've got to now give her the presentation back in order to get that super detailed, super analytical steps. It's going to be great. It's going to be amazing because I'll short circuit her brain. So the research beforehand is critical, and finding out, and there's so much you can find out on the web. So you can go on the web, you can go on LinkedIn, you can go on Facebook. I did a job with Lennox International, and I saw that the vice president was into car racing. As soon as I walked in, I said, I just got back from Homestead Speedway. You like racing? Yeah, I walked out with an agreement. People do business with people who they like or like them. So how can we bond and build rapport with the people at the hospital? They all have likes. Where do they hang out? It's called just doing your homework. Yeah. I put Google alerts on some of them. So you know what a Google alert is. You go into Google and you put an alert, Google alert, and I'll put an alert. Let's say it's on the chief of staff at Innova, and now anytime any news comes up about Innova, I'm going to get a Google alert. Now I can make a warm call instead of a cold call. So if I'm a salesperson and I've gotten rejected a couple of times, I could now either go on LinkedIn or I can make a call and I can leave a message and say, hey, I just wanted, Knox to know that, congratulations from Dr. Rick. Great job on that award. Now you're talking about his favorite person. Yeah. And all you did was do your homework. Why? Because it popped up. So those little things build monster rapport over long periods of time. And I can tell you every long-term deal or long-term relationship I've had has been built on something just like that, something simple. Vice President of China Telecom Americas is my client. I wished him happy birthday on Facebook in 2020. I met him at a wedding. Whose wedding? Luciano's wedding.
Yep, that's awesome.
I just wished him happy birthday.
Well, and it's there's never been an easier time to do everything you're saying, right? So the days of showing up, and you stop at a gatekeeper in a cardiology department and you say, hey, I'm looking for the person responsible for ordering your supplies, right? Or it's the doctor's office, whatever. Now you can do a filtered search on LinkedIn, get 4 different names. You should know the name of the gatekeeper and who might be the decision makers behind there. But now there's even software, and I mentioned this last week, Scotty. The
ID and directory.
That's another good one. Right? let's talk about that one. But even within Gmail, there's this thing called Crystal software. So Rick, when I send you an email through HubSpot, and I use this Crystal software widget, it tells me your personality. In other words, it may say be witty. It may say be concise. So everything you're describing that would traditionally take a little bit of due diligence, now the AI, it's going to button it up for you right up front. So you have to be hungry for these tools. I mean, this is really important. And I say this, and Rick, because you speak like me every week, I'm still amazed at how I'll say, raise your hand if you're using, let's just be specific, any AI tools to help you better prepare to call on decision makers at every level. And they look at you like you're nuts. Like, what is this? And I'm amazed. I'm amazed that 3/4 of the audience, ChatGPT, I heard about it, don't even know. So if you want to stay ahead of anybody in your preparation, you got to be open to new technology. And I'm talking about beyond LinkedIn. LinkedIn, 8 years ago, you should have been on LinkedIn, right? You can't wait anymore. It's too easy to know what's important to people so that you use the right words to bring the walls down. Right.
Well, I just spoke at a big AI conference for Core.ai. You might have heard of them. NVIDIA just invested $150 million in them. And the head of Pfizer was there. The head of Merck, eBay, PNC Bank, all were there. And the stuff that they're doing is incredible, especially with, patient service. But what is really incredible is they're using it in conjunction with real humans, because is AI is not going to replace humans, but it will replace humans that don't use AI.
I like that.
Yeah. But one of the things we're talking right here, it still goes down to relationships.
One of the things that you talk about or write about, especially as we're talking about communication here and the different ways to communicate, but obviously we have a multi-generational workforce today, from elderly to babies. And talk a little bit about where you see some mistakes with leaders and how they communicate across those generations.
The first biggest challenge is self-awareness. Most leaders lack self-awareness. And I say there's 3 stages. And stage 1 is all about me. Stage 2 is when you're butting heads. And stage 3 is when you get up in a helicopter. So, for instance, when they had the earthquake in Haiti, everybody said, they need food and clothes. That was stage 1. Stage 2, all the food and clothes were on the tarmac and everybody's arguing what to do. Stage 3, the president sent the Marines and helicopters and they could look down. When as a leader, 1, you could look down on the situation, you're going to be more successful in getting it resolved. So the self-awareness, because it's not me, it's everybody else. Second is the lack of giving up control to some of these younger people who are excited. They want to get in there and do things and learn. And if we're not giving them that ability, then they're going to go somewhere else and work somewhere else where they're giving that responsibility. So a lot of times it's a measure of what are they good at. A friend of mine wrote a book called The 40-40 Principle. And he said, you should have half of your friends over 40 and half under 40. So
that's interesting.
You're learning from both sides. So, one of the things that I like to do is mentor them up with some of the gray hairs so they can learn some of that stuff. But the gray hairs need to learn about the AI and all this technology in there that they're afraid of, that once they know how to use it, it's second nature, and they'll learn it. But it's about that spark. So I like mixing the teams together because you've got to have those multi-generational teams. And it's all about getting that leader to give up some of the control and recognize that transformational leadership is about the leader giving the vision to the team, then giving the team the tools to carry out that vision, and ultimately who looks the best with the leader. Once they stop micromanaging.
Do you have some strategies or examples of that, like some ideas for leaders of how to bring these generations together?
Yeah, well, the first thing is creating a gamification type of system. Yeah. That's one of the things we love in sales. So I did that with Franklin Templeton Investments International Sales Team. Well, everybody likes to be on TV, right? And people are in the newspapers. And people like to play games. So what we would do is we would start a sales competition. We got pictures of every single person on the team. And then once a month, I would meet with the managing director of sales, and we'd go over what the numbers were, what was good, what could be improved. And then I would give like a 3-minute tip, and they would record it before the sales meeting. And then we'd go to the leaderboard. So just like you're watching the PGA, my desk looked like the ESPN desk. So my bar did. So we had the leaderboard, and then we'd have the rest of, and then the rest of the people. And every month we do that. Well, people started getting excited about it, winning prizes, and they wanted to be on TV next. So any way that we can gamify something like that, it motivates people because they get more excited and it becomes more of a game. I just downloaded an app on my phone that I saw on the Today Show called WeWard. And WeWard is an app for you walking. And it rewards you for walking. Amazon gift certificates, stuff like that. So, to do something healthy for yourself, you're going to get rewarded for that.
Is there one for Tito's and soda that Scotty?
No, but Tito is the reason why my son was at the University of Missouri, because Tito's, my son was in a ZBT, which was run by the Glazers. Who's now Southern Wine Spirits is now Southern Glazer. And so he had too much fun in his fraternity. And the last dad fraternity weekend, Tito showed up to tell us how he made vodka in the dorm rooms at the University of Texas. So that's how Alex ended up being down in Mizzou.
Unbelievable. Hey, so Rick, where could people learn more about your books and your programs, your coaching, your huddles, you name it? What do you say?
They can go to rickgoodman.com, and also on Amazon, all the products available. One of the big things people are looking at right now is retreats. Leadership retreats have been really big with hospital staffs, with pharmaceutical companies, and wanting to get people off base. I just did a leadership retreat for Cox Aquarium and Science Center here, and then just did another one down at UNC and Hendricks Health again. So, they can go right on the website and look in those different workshops, but getting people off campus sometimes and putting them together to develop solutions on some of the challenges they're having goes a long way in building the team, building the camaraderie, and getting people focused in the right direction.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, listen, hey, we know you're a busy man, and we called you in out of the bullpen today. You got the dog walked up.
Down, brother. I couldn't let you down,
I mean, you were right there for me. It was amazing. And I hope you join us again because, listen, our leadership, no organization can survive or certainly thrive unless these leaders understand that they can't be like how I was as a young leader, how you described yourself in losing 200 employees.
Yeah.
It's all about relationships. And of course, how do you become great at relationships? You become a lot better in being selfless and asking more questions and listening to other people.
We're putting this out again. Right. This is the cover. Because I was a PhD and I'm like, no, I'm a doctor. And then when I was really young, I used to wear blue contacts and my kids would say, Dad, you look like a husky. So we thought we'd come up with a fun, little cover.
I love it.
So now we're going to push it out again after all these years. We figured, why not? I think it could be the right.
Yeah, the time is right.
I love it.
I would say people are a little bit more open to edgy titles like sucked than they were, Because there's a big difference between my team sucked and solution-oriented leader.
Oh, yes.
And by the way, I read the second one before I'd read the first one. You know why? Because my little profile comes up as the guy's a knucklehead. He likes the second title better. See, that works for me.
Right? There you go. Do you know Connie Podesto?
No, I don't.
Connie's a big speaker. She was the one, I was literally at a doctor's office because I was with her the night before at the Diplomat. And she was speaking to like MasterCard. She charges like $40,000 a speech. And I gave her my business card, and I'm at this doctor's office, first appointment, and my phone rings, and it's her. And I'm like, shit, I got to answer this. Like they're ready to take me in the back. I've never been to this doctor's office, but when Connie calls you. So I walked outside the doctor's office, and she goes, what's with your business card? I don't even know what you do. And what's with my team sucked? Who's going to bring that to the office? Those are the first words out of her mouth. Like, I'm going, all right, pretty transparent that time. I wasn't up in the helicopter. I didn't think about that when I thought my team sucked. Everybody laughs.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, Sound Wisdom Books was not going to publish My Team Sucked.
Yeah. You know what? You're such a success. You don't need them. All right. Hey, listen, ladies and gentlemen, you make sure you check out just rickgoodman.com. He's got so much great stuff. He's a lot of fun. And listen, Scotty, you brought up generational differences. And you know what's cool is when you see folks like you who are trying to remain smarter with technology tools and, things like video emails and understanding person. Listen, keeping up with you would not be easy. But it's all our job, right? If we want to be the best, we got to be smarter than everybody else. That's got to be the goal.
That's coming from the best. So kudos to what you guys have been doing, and everybody who's looking at your publications and watching and listening to your podcasts is only going to benefit from the wisdom that you have here. So thank you for having me on your podcast today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, sir.
All right. Hey, listen. Hope you enjoyed Friday. It's summertime is here, Scotty.
Summer hours.
Let's get those golf clubs out.
I'm on my way to go to Vegas and to LA.
Nice. There you go.
Golden Company with my son this weekend at the Sphere.
Lucky man. Hey, well, listen. Tell that Tiger we're hanging out with a Golden Girl dad. I'm
gonna have to let all my kids know.
All right, you got to let them know. All right, rickgoodman.com. We'll see you next Friday. This has been The Cure.
See you guys.
Sully.